Now, just a little warning before we begin. There will be major spoilers in this video for the 4th episode of Kenobi, so if you haven't seen it yet, you don't want anything ruined, it is a really good time to click away. Okay, so welcome to another Let's Talk Some Kenobi, where we're basically going to look at some of the responses on my review yesterday, or some of the comments, and respond to them on that review yesterday, as well as talk a little bit about your thoughts on this latest episode, which is what we'll kick it off with. How did you feel about episode or part 4 of Kenobi?
I felt it was a lot of filler / training sequence where Kenobi got to reflex his force muscles and a little bit of his lightsaber skills to, gonna do his Rocky thing and
it was kind
get
of
in shape.
It was almost the equivalent, I guess, to the training montage of getting back into shape and getting back into Jedi fighting form there.
I get mad when you make obvious cliche choices, which this episode kind of did over and over again.
The whole episode was kind of cliche, isn't it? It's the classic, go rescue the princess episode, right? I mean, not that it can't work, not that you can't ever do it.
Of course, the trackers in the bot. And, of course, all of her weird, Tala's weird deceptions, they all worked. And, of course, it was just
very convenient, very contrived.
Yeah. Like I said, I did like a lot of things I saw. I liked seeing, Kenobi do a little more action. But sometimes when he's ducking into when the troopers are coming around the corner, he's getting into hiding. How did they not see him? They would have had to have had their eyes closed.
Maybe they do. They're stormtroopers. Apparently stormtroopers are just completely useless.
Completely. We also have the fact that nobody knows how to construct a base. That underwater base doesn't have reinforced glass. That one blaster bolt is not, that's it.
I think we have a comment about that yet. But yeah, I don't understand how you would build a base that you might fire a blaster in at some point and not have glass that can resist that.
They're so cocky they didn't put shields on it. Apparently they can't track incoming ships. This is the worst base ever.
It's the best, worst base ever, I think, yeah. Because it's cool in design, and in theory, you think it would be, they do say it's impenetrable, and who would be stupid enough to go in there. So I get that maybe you lax your security because of that, but I don't think so. Really don't. I think you would have shields. I think you would have scanners, especially with how tight the security is in the base, right? They're recognizing, hey, you're not. This is not your sector. You're not supposed to be here. But as long as you're outside somewhere, we're not going to pay any attention to you.
Was this all set up as Reva's big way to let them escape, to lead them to the underground? Because I don't feel that at all. I feel like this desperation she has to trap Kenobi wouldn't allow her to have this oh no, I will catch him, but I'm going to set him free first. I feel like that's just weird in her plot.
It could just be a backup plan, but I get your line of thinking there. It doesn't make sense for her. She's so obsessed with Kenobi, and yet it's also implied she's looking for the path and she's trying to impress. It's hard to know exactly, considering we don't know what her true motivation is yet, right? We have no idea why she hates
we know
Kenobi.
at this point?
I feel like if you're going to have this episode where she lets them get away, where she seems to, we just don't know. I think this would have been a good episode, maybe for some flashbacks between Vader and Kenobi, and maybe Reva as well. I think the last episode was the perfect time for the flashbacks.
I think Disney made a huge fail. This comes out week by week, so they're sitting here and giving fans a chance to go, oh, this is a mistake, this is a mistake, this is a mistake. I don't like when they release entire shows at once, personally. But if they would have done that and we would have been able to see the entire picture, the entire show from start to finish, maybe people wouldn't be as upset. Maybe we wouldn't be complaining as much. Instead, we're looking at this character what are your motivations? What is the plan here? Because we don't know. We just don't know.
Well, yeah, but even still, it should...
And we don't know if we're going to get that.
You shouldn't have to release all the episodes at once in order for the story to make sense, right?
That's where the fail is.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that they do release episodes one at a time, they have kind of messed things up for the audience because we don't know what her motivations are. So instead, we're looking at this as maybe this isn't a good character. And if you're going to wait to redeem it in the end so that we rewatch the entire series going, now it all makes sense, that's not exactly a success.
No, I don't think
because
that's
you could be losing viewership along the way.
Yeah.
Because no one understands the character.
I think last week in the 3rd episode when Reva found the little hidden area and she saw the Jedi symbol and she had her freak out. That was the time to flash back and why is she freaking out at the Jedi symbol?
What is her motivation? What's driving her? That's when we needed to know it.
Yeah, I was
Instead,
stunned.
We're still waiting.
Yeah, I was stunned there was no flashback. And I even theorized maybe there was supposed to be some sort of flashback that was maybe too insensitive for the moment because it's likely going back to the Jedi Temple again and the slaughter there. And as we know in the news, not the news, but in the world, you could say, we've had some, issues with that sort of thing, and maybe they didn't want to show it, felt it'd be insensitive, so maybe we missed the flashback that would be... And I know that probably isn't the case, because they probably just have a disclaimer, hey, there might be some insensitive material.
Well, they had a disclaimer at the very beginning for the scene, so...
No, that was for Stranger Things. They had they could have just had a disclaimer instead of kind of not, destroying your series and making us all wonder what's up with this character. Give us a disclaimer. I think 99.9% of people are going to understand this was filmed years ago and it's not meant to in any way glorify anything. So give us the disclaimer. Give us that flashback. Let us know what in the world is going on with Reva. But again, that's just a theory. Maybe there was no flashback. So let's now move on to some of the comments.
All right, the top comment is from gbrow160. After the first episode introduced Leia, I didn't hate it, but I was hoping that would only be a small part of the show. Now, 4 out of 6 episodes in, it's pretty much been the main plot.
It has been the main plot.
Yes, it's the driving feature behind the show right now.
Absolutely, everything.
It's what's moving us to finding out about the path. It's what's moving, the Inquisitors. She is the driving reason that anything happens in the show right now.
Yeah, she's the only reason anything has happened in the show. I mean, she is we've now had 2 rescue missions for her. The reason he comes out of hiding is for Leia. Mm-hmm. We're learning more about Leia, I feel, at this time than we are about Kenobi at this time. Certainly more than we are about Reva or any of the, any of the motivations behind her. It has become, for better or worse, the Leia show at this point. And I mean, I don't think the young Leia has done a bad job. I don't think that story is terrible.
No, I think she's actually really been a highlight.
I agree. I think she's done a really fantastic job as as playing Leia. But that again is not what a lot of people signed up for, or a lot of people are looking forward to. I think if you call, as I said before, I think if you call this something else, if you don't call this Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you come up with a different name for it, not even just the Leia show, but just some kind of generic title for this, I think people are more understanding of this decision to make Leia the focal point.
Imagine if they would have advertised this as more of a Leia-centric-y show, call it The Lost Princess of Alderaan or something.
Yeah.
And then in episode 1, you just start out introducing Kenobi. People would have lost their minds at how amazing the show was.
Yeah. Isn't that ironic if you would call this a Leia show and then...
Well, we've talked about it. Book of Boba Fett should have been called Tales of Tatooine.
It should have been.
Or something else.
Something else. Anything else. Anything but Book of Boba Fett, because you had some chapters of Mandalorian in the middle. He wasn't really all that... I mean, yes, the earlier episodes, but it didn't feel like it was really always about him. And if you had called it something else entirely, you get a different reaction. Isn't it amazing how you present something and the name of something, the title, can really alter perception and alter reactions to it?
Absolutely.
All right, next comment.
Chris R. I really thought there were a noticeable amount of stupid creative choices or decisions in this episode. The fact that Leia undeniably knows Ben is Obi-Wan Kenobi now. The fact that the Fortress Inquisitors doesn't have a shield for no reason other than the plot convenience. The fact that they didn't bother to scramble any TIE fighters as they were fleeing the fortress on a snow speeder. The stormtrooper who just stood still and waited to die in the dark was also really dumb. Does he not at least have the sense to back up against a wall so that Obi-Wan can't kill him from behind? Which is also what ended up happening. Nobody noticing that a child was obviously hiding in Obi-Wan's coat was so stupid as well. I like the series, and I think it's pretty good, but damn, did this episode really frustrate me.
Wait, Leia was hiding under the coat?
I didn't even notice.
See it. Wow, it was so... I thought it was just blended in so perfectly, I didn't even notice. I clearly understand why nobody in that hangar bay would have noticed either.
Stormtroopers don't look at feet. Clearly.
Yeah, they don't look at their targets, they just aim up or something.
I have an answer, though.
Oh.
In Stormtrooper helmets, I'm assuming they don't have great vision, so they have no downward scope. It's just like tunnel vision.
Oh, yeah.
No answering as to why the Imperial officers didn't see, but...
Well, that would...
Or the security cameras.
That would make more sense than everybody just missed the kid under the coat. But no, this episode was a series of conveniences and contrivances for our heroes to save the day. And yes, to some degree, that's going to be the case, right? If the heroes are almost always going to win, so of course, things are going to luckily happen for them. But your goal as a writer is to mask that as well as possible.
Well, we kind of already talked about that a lot in my thoughts on that. In that they just dropped the ball and made it really weird. Yeah. Everyone had everything happen the exact way it needed to, and nobody else noticed anything. Might as well have been walking around your eyes closed if you were Imperial in that base, as much as you notice.
Maybe it was just so dark in there. It was just so dark and gloomy. Nobody saw
They were
anything.
outside, though.
Well, this is a cloudy day.
It wasn't cloudy.
It was cloudy, actually.
But you could see the sunlight.
I know. It wasn't dark, but it was cloudy, so totally excusable for their incompetence. I'm being sarcastic. That was pretty bad. All right, next comment.
Next message comes from Tux. For being a base that's half underwater, they really got to work on underwater security. 2 out of 2 infiltrations we've seen have been from underwater.
See, and that's one of my biggest gripes, because I've seen a lot of people saying, well, they don't need all that security. Nobody is stupid enough to break into this base. Well, in canon, it already happened once before. They've already had somebody break into there. And, of course, the game Jedi Fallen Order. So you would think they would have tightened security since then, especially under, maybe put some mechanical sharks in the water or something. I don't know, something cool like that.
You could put sharks with lasers on them.
Yes, mechanical sharks with lasers. Why not? I mean, put something in that water. Maybe find a bigger fish to go in there to eat the people trying to get in.
Or at least make it so that the door that they're coming in at
is guarded something, or
better locked or surveillanced, because then they could catch infiltrators.
Yeah, something. Get somebody down there to watch that door, because now you're like I said, 2 for 2 infiltrations have been underwater.
Mm-hmm. Ryan says, it's insane to think how long this series/story was in development and how unbelievably underwhelming it is. This should have been an easy home run.
Yeah, it should have been an easy home run.
It should have just been the book.
Well,
it would have been so easy for them to make. It would have been good.
I don't know that the book itself. And you're speaking of the Kenobi novel from about 10 years ago.
The EU,
yeah, from the EU. And I mean, that book it's a fantastic read. Recommend it to anybody.
It doesn't break canon.
No, it doesn't break. It actually you could fit it still into the canon to this day. Even with the Kenobi series, you could fit it into canon.
Right, because it would have taken place before this.
Yeah, it takes place like days after Revenge of the Sith, and maybe a couple weeks. Baby. Yeah, so it's a great book. I don't know that it translates well to screen, because a lot of people are going to expect more action and more lightsabers and everything out of a Kenobi series. Now, personally, I wanted this to be more of an introspect. It really hasn't been that. I would have been fine with maybe translating that book to screen, but I don't know. It does feel like it was an easy home run here. It feels like, how did you give us some Clone Wars flashbacks? Give us some interesting Anakin Obi-Wan dynamics.
There would have been enough action in that book to keep things interesting.
It could have been.
You opened up with the scene in the bar.
Yeah,
then there's the runaway Dubek.
There
would have been enough, I think. The Tusken Raider fights.
Sure, but you also would have had to explain why you and Obi-Wan aged so much in like 2 days too. Because Ewan McGregor is kind of the right age to play Obi-Wan at this time, because he's clearly looking better than I think he will in 10 years in A New Hope. That's just impossible to kind of rectify with Sir Alec Guinness and him and their ages, but. I don't know that he would have looked the part for that, but I don't know. Overall, I think this was a completely whiffed home run here.
James Murray says, the first 3 episodes were building up to this super emotional Vader-Kenobi dynamic, with Third Sister acting as sort of a teaser for the real dark side to come, but episode 4 really just came off as filler. Also, Third Sister is really, really not intimidating, and they're not doing enough, in my opinion, with making her compelling and unique. The show is using her as the main antagonist as opposed to Darth freaking Vader. Why? It's so frustrating because it's so close to being amazing. Third Sister could have been used better, and Reva could have told Obi that Vader was alive without knowing Vader is Anakin. Leia didn't need to know Ben is Obi-Wan. That just muddies the waters of A New Hope. Vader could have let Obi-Wan go on purpose, but now it's clear that he just gave up at the end of the last episode for some reason. So many little mistakes that don't really matter alone, but together they just confound me as a fan. Also, helmet slap.
Yeah, I agree. It's a combination of many little things that start to add up into an avalanche of questions that just are not going to have good answers, most likely, or are not going to have any answers at all. I think that's my biggest... Could this story have worked? I guess so. I still think bringing in Leia and having him leave the planet is maybe the best way to do it in one sense, but the worst in another. Because now you have this connection between these two characters that doesn't fit in with anything else in the canon.
As for helmet slap, she's an Imperial officer. She probably knows the exact spot to tap that helmet so that it renders the stormtrooper unconscious inside, right?
There we go. Now you're writing the story for them.
I fixed
yes.
it. I fixed it. It's okay, guys. It's
goodness.
okay.
That helmet slap is really bad.
There's the exact one spot on the helmet you can slap it and just bam.
Well, they got the tunnel vision, so
She didn't even see it coming.
Yeah, he didn't see it coming, and any kind of movement of the helmet just completely throws off the vision. So it all makes sense, right? It's
perfect. Yeah.
As for Third Sister, I see a lot of people saying she's not intimidating, she's not evil enough, and I think we talked about this before in a video. Like, I think it's hard to pull off evil. I think a lot of people think of evil as just being, a scowl and being, but then you look at like a Tarkin, a Peter Cushing, like he's just
menacing.
Yeah, or Mads Mikkelsen, you bring him up all the time. There's just something about their presence that they're evil.
If you haven't seen Hannibal, Mads Mikkelsen is phenomenal. Even
Palpatine, Ian McDiarmid, I brought this up last night in our voice chat. Like, even when he's playing the good guy, right? Even when he's being, the good Chancellor, you still get that underlying sense of evil out of him.
Yeah,
even
that something's not right with him.
Yeah, and I think it's just, I'm not trying to criticize Moses Ingram. I said, I think it's almost a compliment to say that it's hard for someone to be evil. It's just, I don't,
Well, we should definitely blame some of the writers for this.
I do too. Yeah, I
Joby
agree.
Harold said he wanted her to be more of a mystery box character. You don't know her motive. I'm like, and that's the problem.
That's the problem.
Is because you've done your darndest to make her a mystery box character, no one believes her.
No.
As a villain, because we don't understand her.
No, I don't understand why she's always so angry and scowly and...
I mean, think of Thanos. He is a terrifying villain because A, we know what he's going to do. B, we know how capable he is of doing it. C, we know why he's doing it. This fanatical reasoning that's driving him. And because you can see how much he believes in it, it makes him scary.
Exactly, because we don't know why Reva, that's what we were talking about before. We don't know why Reva is so obsessed with Kenobi. It makes it feel hollow. It's just like, she's just mad at Kenobi because Kenobi.
I can imagine poor Moses Ingram on set. Okay, what's my motivation?
You hate Kenobi. Why do I hate Kenobi? Because you do.
We aren't telling you that yet. It's a secret.
Yeah. We don't know. We'll figure it out later. A comic book will fill that in someday.
Someday we'll know.
No, so I kind of feel sorry for her because we saw her in Queen's Gambit. I think she's fantastic in that. So it's not that she can't act. It's just that
they've chosen not to let her act.
Yeah, they've chosen to give her this role that I just don't think maybe she's suited for it. Maybe she just doesn't play a good evil character. That's not an insult per se. All right, but let's move on.
Derek Lopez. The part where Obi-Wan hides Leia underneath the trench coat literally had me laughing. It reminded me of Austin Powers hiding Mini-Me underneath the disguise. It's just as silly as the chase scene in the first episode. While the whole Force Unleashed 2 scene with Obi-Wan saving Leia was cool, the rest of the episode was whack.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit already, but that's just so silly. It's too silly. Like, even in an episode of, say, like Rebels, which is obviously more childish and more aimed at a younger audience. Rebels, so. It did, didn't it? Mm-hmm. But I would have rolled my eyes then, even knowing the audience is supposed to be younger. Like, that's just so ridiculous that that they even tried it. Right? Could you imagine?
This isn't set for younger audiences at all.
Well, no, that's not what
people in half.
Could you imagine if put yourself in that situation? You're Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're Tala, and we have to hide this girl and get her out of the base. Like, and you said to me, "Well, grab that trench coat, put it on, we'll hide her underneath there, and just walk out." I would have looked at you like you have lost your mind.
I would have thought it'd be more believable if you would have had her like piggybacking on his back with a trench coat over it. At least then he's like a hunchback, or maybe disguise him as a weird alien or something.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, not that they wouldn't have looked at the weird alien being in the Empire.
Even better, because I've seen this done successfully on film. She kind of around his front. He's holding him. Yeah, so he just looks like a fatter gentleman.
Yes.
Within the trench coat around. Like you could easily sneak her that way. Yeah. I've seen that done on screen, and it's been done successfully.
It would have been more successful than her walking side by side and like peeking out at a point as well.
If she would have been like, if you would have been carrying her around on his front, she very well could have been disguised as just a heavier set Imperial officer, which doesn't sound out of sorts at all. But no, they went with let's have 4 legs. It's fine.
No one will notice, and nobody did. All right, next.
Jonas Diaz. I'm one of the Star Wars fans that has liked the series less with each episode and feel like the series overall didn't need to exist. These episodes felt like spinning their wheels at this point, from Vader leaving Kenobi alive done very poorly, executed, to the Grand Inquisitor of Rebels Season 1's getting pathetically stabbed by Reva, to this filler episode, which is supposed to be the end of the second act. Twin Suns episode of Rebels has currently had a better portrayal of Kenobi than anything here after Part 1. Fallen Order has done a superior version of Jedi escaping an underwater fortress. There are still no flashbacks of Kenobi and Anakin, especially here. When in the Bacta tank, they would have had a perfect chance to give us something that worth the existence of this show. Gonna feel disappointed to think that Rebels may be a better use of legacy and existing characters than anything here in Kenobi, aside from young Leia, who's surrounded by continuity holes in middling writing.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the show had to justify its existence, right? It has to give us a real purpose for the story to exist. And right now, the only purpose of that is to, again, it's been about Leia. You know, Leia has been an excuse to get Obi-Wan off planet, to give us some, I don't know, the rematch of the century, which I'm assuming is coming in the next couple episodes. Probably. I'm going to guess it's going to be the next episode.
It has to be, because the last episode
is going to try to wrap stuff.
It's the wrap up.
It's got to try to wrap up a lot of these kind of threads that are going on and make it make sense going into A New Hope, which, cross my fingers, wish them luck, kind of, yeah.
Hey, Luke hasn't been broken. They've left him alone, so he's fine.
Yeah, but they'll bring him in and they'll throw everything into question with him too. But no, that's my biggest problem. Like, I don't think it would have been that hard to justify its existence. I think with some cool flashbacks, a cool story, everybody would have loved this. I think they just, I don't know what they thought.
Pepin Viere. So this is now the third for Disney series where a kid is captured and then rescued. One of the Disney writers is going to come up with something new. Got kind of excited when Obi-Wan was announced because I thought, finally, a series concentrating on a specific character, not a bunch of new side characters we've never heard of. How wrong I was.
Yeah, this is Mandalorian, kind of a solo broken character in a way, doing his own thing, has to go rescue a kid. We have Bad Batch, kind of a dysfunctional group, have to go rescue a kid. Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan, dysfunctional, has to go rescue a kid. It does...
Hey, Book of Boba Fett, a kid comes and rescues them.
Oh. Jeez. I guess they did flip the script, didn't they?
They did. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, but no, it is a little overused at this point. The whole kid with the, like I said, kind of dysfunctional and needing to be rescued. Please, no more of that.
All right, Patrick Diggalo. And now we can see they never had a direction for it. They simply made the show for the sake of it, as an excuse to grab some cash. As long as we have Obi-Wan and Vader on film, even though there's no story, we will get paid. And that's all that matters to them.
It is. It's all about making money. And
what happened to Deborah Chow is the driving factor is why. Why is there a story? Why is this happening?
I'm still waiting for the why.
Where's Reva's whys?
Where's anybody's whys? Yeah. No, I mean, I understand Disney, they want to make money. I don't have an issue. I've said it before. I don't really have an issue with them wanting to make money and, quote unquote, using Star Wars to do it, as long as what they give us is good. I don't have any issue paying for great Star Wars content, right? I don't think anybody does. If you're that's what I don't understand, how, they just throw us, I guess because people just consume it, right? No matter what it is. And I sit here and I'm still watching it too, right? So who am I to even talk at this point? I mean, I understand the irony and the hypocrisy out of me. Like, I'm complaining about it, yet I keep watching it. Yet it's one of those things. I compare it to, like, my favorite sports team all the time. Like, my favorite sports team, they're going to lose. They're going to have terrible seasons. They're going to keep losing. Yet I still keep rooting for them, right? I can't not root for Star Wars.
It's like getting involved in an abusive relationship.
In a way, it is.
You just keep waiting for it to get better.
Yeah.
You convince yourself it's going to get better.
It has to get. It can't get worse. And then something. And I don't think the series is that terrible. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the series has been like, oh, it's just an atrocity. It's been terrible. I think it hasn't been very good, and it could have been much better. And that's the problem. You see these glimmers, and you're like, oh, if they could just get their stuff together, this could be good. And then you see things like The Mandalorian, and there are people like Favreau and Filoni in there who really do care and give us great content. So it's a trying time for a Star Wars fan, right? All right, so let's get to just one final comment here then.
Caleb says, my big issue with this show is that everything feels really railroaded. We know Kenobi and Leia survive, so there's no real stakes. Because of this, the Empire also feels extra incompetent. Reva is annoying and the Grand Inquisitor isn't dead. The show should have just taken place on Tatooine, with Obi-Wan meditating to become a Force ghost.
Yeah, that's kind of what you said before. Make it about make the Kenobi novel into a film, or just take that general idea and turn it into a film, something. Just, I understand, like I said, a lot of people probably, a lot of non-hardcore fans or casual viewers are probably going to find it a little more boring, but I don't know, maybe you take this character and you give the fans the story they really want. Maybe people would have loved a really in-depth, introspect about Kenobi on Tatooine, and really, they would have found it fascinating if done right, I think. Even
you're
without
right.
all the flashiness. Mm-hmm. All right, well, I guess that's all we got for you this time. So take to the comments below and tell us what you thought of this 4th episode of Kenobi, or what you thought of what I or anyone else or what Sailor Naboo had to say in this video. And let's talk some Kenobi. And until next time, thanks for watching.